What happens if you run a game that's completely random? Every event is random. Well, you end up with a player with an instant death curse. Hello and welcome to the Battle and Barrow and another D&D Mystara campaign waffle session. Yes, okay, so the interesting said completely random. It kind of was and it wasn't. I normally have goals that I want to achieve in my gaming sessions. I wouldn't say they're planning because, you can't really plan. I kind of have beats that I want to hit. So if I'm in the middle of an adventure, I kind of want to have a beat where I want to get to by the end of the session. So let's take the Under the Floors murder bit in the recent Valg Society campaign. I know in that session I just wanted to get that part of the module played out in that session. What happens within that session, who knows, but I just want to get that done. So this session, my only plan I had was I wanted to get the players their crew, or the start of their crew. So we start this session where we ended the last one. They're still on their boat. They've just had the tutorial, if you like, to learn how the rules for the boat, but the crew they were using was temporarily supplied by Mage Marine, just to get them used to the rules of the boat. So when they sail back, that crew will disperse. They need to get their own crew. So my only objective this session was to get the crew, but I needed something for the players to do during the session. We're in between adventures, and this is where I like the players to sort of do their own role playing, and it's all about their characters. And this session was completely and utterly random. It was all down to the fate of the dice. First things first, a bit of shopping, and this gets them used to Irendi City. I'm sort of changing this a wee bit, as I mentioned last session, making it more like Port Royal from the Pirates of the Caribbean film. This place, it is multicultural, so this is a place where people from around the known world do travel to. So I am keeping that sort of resort holiday aspect in there, sort of downplaying it a bit. But the buildings themselves, they're not native. They don't look like they're native to Irendi. They are almost similar to what they've experienced before in Karamikos, kind of stone and wood buildings, half timber buildings with wattle and daub and that sort of thing. They want to get some sending stones to make their communication easier, so they send Galfon with to do that, and she scours the place looking for some. She does manage to find some. During this time, Walker remains on the boat and gets himself familiar with the cannons they've acquired. He's polishing his balls, I guess, his cannonballs. Anerophel is doing something a bit more in depth. Wants to go to the School of Arts, hook up with some bards. He's a multi-class bard, thief and bard, a swashbuckler, which is a rogue, and a bard multi-class. So he's going to concentrate on his bardic parts. He's leveled up, and he's going to join the College of Whispers, which in the books is just a thing, whereas I've made it more of a society, almost, I guess, like the Harpers from Forgotten Realms. But it's so he joins that. There's a secret back room he goes into that when he enters, there's all bar. He goes to the School of Arts. It's like, as you expect, loud, noisy as people are performing. But in this room, the outside sound doesn't penetrate into this room, and you can almost hear a whisper. So he does that. You can see more of this develop in the full session of this when it gets released on the channel. After that, he goes to see a cleric. He's looking for a cleric for the god, the immortal of the ocean, and he pays them and makes a donation to the temple, and then asks the priest, the cleric, to bless the ship, which they do. And now with that, we are now on to finding the crew, which I thought this would be the main part of the session. And so available to patrons, you have my crew name generator, And we used that, so every time they found a crew member, they sort of rolled up a name for it and had great fun with that naming them. And throughout that, most of them seemed to be related to one another. We had a lot of surnames of the same, which is dog, spelled D-O-W-G. Yeah, so they first of all go to a tavern. It's a tavern, it's a resort. This is on the beachfront. Well, I think Walker and Gelfwith are there trying to find people that sailors hire. They said the best place is going to be the docks. Makes sense. So they work their way back to the ship where it's docked and the docks, and they start inquiring about getting a crew. And yes, they're going to employ about 10, because that's the minimum they need for the ship. It's 2 gold pieces a day. I'm taking the crew rules from Ghost of Saltmarsh and sort of expanding it out a bit. And we'll be using the crew quality rating from that in Appendix A. That's in. They also, while they're there though, they see a surfing Jasper. If you remember last time he had his Bermuda shorts on, he is now here. He will be an NPC that almost follows them around where possible in inhabited civilized locations. He will be there for them. But what I got planned in the future, he probably won't be there. But for now, he's there enjoying his vacation. I am picturing him like the Merlin from the Disney film Sword in the Stone, where he's got his Bermudas on and his Hawaiian shirt on and things like that. That's just to let them know that if they do need something, he is there. The ship gets blessed and they get a crew, but in the meantime, they want some food. So in the Irendi book, there is a little section, and it covers Irendi Island here, and the best place to get food is in the marketplace. So we go to here. I kind of expanded out Wirt's character here. He runs a seaweed stall selling seaweed. It's a seaweed surprise that he sort of trawls seaweed in, but in there he also sells those sort of crabs and shellfish that he then has a side hustle, and made expand it out to have a side hustle of he sells cooked seafood on the beach. And the players decided they wanted seafood, so that is where we went to. Was going to go to there's Manly's Eats here. If they said fruit, we would have ended up here, but they said seafood, so we ended up here. And this was already pre-planned in my mind that Wirt was going to sell seafood. And so this session, whilst I say it's random, is also highly driven by the player's actions. And you'll notice this adventure here, that if you know the Irendi book, you know what that is. That's related to Wirt. We'll get to that in a minute. And during this, I make a throwaway statement that this kid looks a bit like Walker, like it could be his son. It was just a joke. But the players, again, their actions, they run with this. And so it sort of turns out that I sort of role-played it, that Wirt got excited thinking that Walker was his dad. And Walker's character, well, it can't be my son. I'll roll the dice and let the dice decide. So I said, we'll roll the dice and let the dice decide. So I said, okay. So what I did is I rolled a percentile dice. I got 54, I kept that from Walker, and I asked him to pick a number from 1 to 100. If he gets over 54, it's your son. He didn't know the target number. If you get under, it's not. Joking round as immature us did, he picked the number 69. So he ends up with a long lost son. So now we have to work that into his backstory, why Wirt is his long lost son. Wirt is terribly excited. We sort of wrangle it and roleplay how to identify that it is true, that he is his son. So one of our crew members is going to be Walker's son. Every ship has a cabin boy. This is going to be that. Now, it's during this, when they rifle through the seaweed, that this adventure kicks in, which if you know, you know. So what happens is, there is a black pearl about 1 1/4 inch diameter. There's a fish that drops out, and it crumbles to dust, and out of the dust is this black pearl. Now this is a cursed item. Whoever picks it up has an hour to live, or they crumble it to dust. They can pass it on to someone else, and then they don't get crumbled to dust, but that next person crumbles to dust. If they put it down on an inanimate object, say a chair, and walk away, the chair will crumble to dust after an hour, and then the ball will magically appear into the last person who owned it. And then the timer starts again. The only way you can break this curse is to return it to the ball's rightful owner, which is an evil pirate called Redfoot, who used to use this ball to put it onto ships, let it crumble to dust, and then the ball would appear back to him. So he was quite clever with it. He'd use it for nefarious purposes. But so this black pearl drops out, and it's shiny, and a Nerophil picks it up. And obviously I don't want the player just in an hour's time to suddenly die. There's no save, there's no nothing, it is just instant death curse. It's harsh. I mean, this is rated a basic expert adventure, but it's quite harsh. There is instant death. And so what I do is I let the players know what the score is. And then there is a bit of, so if you watch the full play, there is a bit of swearing. So as soon as I explain this, a Nerophil is like, ah. And so we do a bit of rolling and insighting and history checking and what have you, asking about. And yes, so we get the background story that this is Redfoot's pearl. You need to give it back to Redfoot. Redfoot hangs out in Alcove Island, and you need to pass it on to someone else within an hour. So we've got a crew now, including Wirt, and now we have a curse and an adventure to run. It's called, by the way, if you're interested, A Really Dead Fish. And so at this stage we are getting to a really dead state. There's a bit of panic going on, and so they were planning to just hire the minimum crew here of 10, and then get some other crew from Alcove Island anyway, which are a bit more piratey, being their backgrounds. So they've got their crew and they're off. So we have one of the crew is stationed to every hour ring a bell so I can let the players know. And being I keep strict timekeeping, I'm monitoring this. So they're sailing round looking for Redfoot's ship. They're hoping. Oh, they've also bought trade goods, by the way, so they can trade at different islands, maybe at the Isle of Dread, which I'm hoping to run. So we've got that going on. So they're trying to look like a merchant ship that hopefully they will come across Redfoot, who will merchant ship to plunder them. So I'm rolling for ships. I'm rolling for what is going to happen. Random events, effectively, using my random event chart. They encounter some dolphins, a merchant ship which they leave, and I do know that they will eventually meet into Redfoot. That's just going to be 100% given. So after some random encounters, some disappointed, we meet Redfoot. And the reason I'm doing this is mainly I've sort of wrangled this into learning the ship rules. Obviously we're moving the ship around, we're encountering things, but now we can do ship to ship combat. And well, they've got to split their 10 crew between sailing the ship, navigating the ship, and using the cannons. They've only got 3 cannons anyway, so I didn't want it to be full strength straight away, so we can buy some more cannons soon. I think I'm going to give them another 2 before we go to the Isle of Dread. And Redfoot is full on. It's full crew, full cannons. They should have wiped the floor with them. They find the cannons, they get a few hits, and then they come up with this brilliant idea, which I loved. Put the pearl into a cannon, fire that at Redfoot so it gets returned to owner, and breaks the curse. In the meantime, I'm trying to damage their ship, so I do a broadside straight down at them. I got sort of house rules for broadside, which aren't in the Captains of Cannons rules, which I use, which just basically means things. You roll at disadvantage, but your hit rolls are sort of exploding dice. So if you rolled a 1 as a damage dice, you can re-roll that and add the 1 plus whatever you roll. So it's exploding dice. So really, this should be devastating. There are literally 8, because we're on that side, 8 this side, 8 that side on the ship. So there are 8 cannons coming towards players. So I'm rolling 8 rolls with disadvantage. One of those odds, the odds are one of them should have hit at least. None. I got none. So anyway, they fired a cannon and they're aiming their Black Pearl cannon straight where Red Foot is. I can see him on deck. See, it doesn't hit him, but it hits near him. He sees what it is and plucks out and cheers. And so the curse is broken, luckily. But the Redfoot, they might encounter Redfoot. He sounds off. He's got his pearl. He's got his plunder. He's happy. He sees that ship as not being their ship as not having much of worth, and so for the moment leaves him alone. But this is a future thread that I am setting up. So now we make our way to Alcove Island. Before we get there, I want another encounter. I want an encounter that I printed off from, I think it comes from DM's Guild. I've got a lot of ocean encounters that are in my DM's folder, and one of them is they see a small little single sloop boat coming towards them. So it's this, and on this, as it gets near, they see two skeletons on board drinking. I made them drink just for the funny image of skeletons drinking and the water coming out. But they're intrigued by this, so they stop and try and communicate with the skeletons. Unfortunately, they can't speak, and they try and mime and do charades, which I do pull out in the game. And I think in the full play session, Rob manages to, who plays Walker, the camera, to show me gesturing wildly as I'm trying to get across. So the deal is, they have a lockbox on their ship, and they're trying to give it to the players. The basic lockbox basically says on top, "Do not open, instant death." It's another cursed item, but it's property of Lady Magda, who we met back in the Valk Society campaign. She led the procession right at the beginning, before all the troubles started between the houses, and so they sort of know her. So they do keep the lockbox. And after I was expecting one of them to open it to trigger the curse. It can be resolved, but again, it's another pretty much instant death one if they don't figure it out. What happens is their lungs fill with water if they open it, and they begin to drown. And so nasty, but there is a way out of it. And I was expecting them to open the lockbox, being it's a shiny thing, just see what's in there before they return it to Lady Magda. And this is another mini adventure thread I can run in the future, but they don't. I think the Black Pearl has put them off, and so they don't open it, and they just put it aside and to return to Lady Magda in the future. With that, the skeletons sail off into the distance, still drinking their rum. The next thing I wanted to test is in Ghost of Marsh. We have Ghost of Salt Marsh. There are hazards for ships, so I wanted to run one of them, and so I knew. So whilst it wasn't quite random, it sort of was. I didn't know I was going to do this. So we have a storm, and it's just to run through the rules of hazards. Basically, this was this session and the end of the last session was a tutorial session, really, to learn some new rules. And so we have a storm, and the players have to get around that storm. If you run no Ghost of Salt Marsh, you know how it works. Your crew has a rating. They have to pass certain tests. Your crew, if they pass, great. If they pass flying studies, your crew rating is going to go up. But with flying colours, your crew rating is going to go up. If you fail enough times, your crew rating is going to go down. If your crew rating goes down too much, there's mutiny. Unfortunately, they didn't do too well in this storm, and the crew rating dropped by 2. It's nowhere near a mutiny yet, but you know, it has dropped. They didn't. I think one man actually went overboard as well. They lost 10 persons. So after the storm passes, they limp into Alcove Island, ready to find some more crew members and ready to set sail properly. And that is where I left this session. As I said, a lot of things that happen in this session. There's more to it than this if you want to watch the full session. This is a brief waffle overview, a recap, but that is what happened. And it's one of the most funnest sessions I've had in a long time. I really enjoyed this one. thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great fun, just being at sea. Next session's going to be a while due to, for us, I guess by the time I've recorded this it won't be and put it out for you, due to some personal issues. Got to go sort of working through at home. Hopefully we'll get a session soon and carry on, so I'm raring to go with it. It's really good fun being at sea again. Anyway, that's it for this waffle, guys. Thanks for listening into me harp on about such things. Hope you are watching the full sessions as well and enjoying those. Until the next video, guys, stay safe, take care, bye bye.